New York is often seen as the dazzling center of the world. And while that view isn't exactly wrong, it's also not the whole truth. Behind the skyscrapers and the fast-paced lifestyle are small towns struggling with serious problems. Homelessness, a sluggish economy, rampant crime, and failing public services make life here far from comfortable. This is a glimpse into a side of the state that rarely gets talked about. This list isn't meant to shame these places, but rather to show that not every part of New York enjoys the same prosperity. And, believe it or not, some of these towns were once thriving in the past. Let's begin. First, there's a town perched neatly along the Hudson River. Founded in 1709 by German Palatine refugees, Newburgh has a long history, playing a key role during the American Revolution and even serving as General George Washington's headquarters. But those days are long gone. Today, Newburgh is better known for its high crime rate, especially gun violence. Many old buildings sit abandoned, casting a gloomy feel over its main streets. Job opportunities are limited, pushing many young people to leave for other cities. While there are revitalization efforts, progress has been slow. Its more than 27,000 residents often rely on tight-knit communities for support, but a sense of safety remains a major concern. If you think Newburgh has it bad, wait until you hear about Gloversville. Once famous as America's leather glove manufacturing hub, its factories, the engines that powered the town, are now just memories, leaving the community in deep poverty. Home to over 14,000 people, the town faces high rates of overdose and unemployment, with 21.6% living below the poverty line. Empty houses and a deserted downtown paint a stark picture of economic decline. Some residents try to revive small businesses, but it's hard to compete when local purchasing power is so weak. Even with the natural beauty surrounding it, the lack of entertainment options and job opportunities makes life here feel monotonous. And the next city we'll cover faces a different but equally serious set of challenges. Have you heard of Binghamton? For those familiar with or who studied at Binghamton University, it's more than just a town. Once both an industrial and educational center, Binghamton held a strong reputation. Unfortunately, the collapse of its manufacturing sector led to widespread factory closures, costing many residents their jobs. Parts of the city now feel almost abandoned. While the university remains prestigious, there's a clear gap between student life and that of the local community. The city's infrastructure is in need of serious upgrades, especially roads and transportation networks. Harsh, prolonged winters often add to resident struggles. Development programs have been launched, but they haven't yet brought the full transformation Binghamton needs. If Binghamton still sounds somewhat tolerable, the next city might have an even darker reputation. Close to New York City, Mount Vernon should, in theory, have plenty of opportunities. In reality, however, it's plagued by problems involving crime, political corruption, and crumbling infrastructure. According to various reports and investigations, the Mount Vernon Police Department has faced allegations of civil rights violations, including excessive force and unlawful searches. At the same time, residents often complain about poor public services, broken roads, faulty drainage systems, and neglected facilities. the economy moves slowly, while the cost of living remains high. Perhaps most telling is the city's history, which may still hold it back. In the mid-20th century, Mount Vernon saw a sharp social divide, with the south side largely African American and the north side predominantly white. Proximity to a major city hasn't been enough to turn things around. But wait, the next city's problems have drawn national attention. This is Rochester, once known as a hub of innovation and photography, thanks to the Eastman Kodak Company. When that industry collapsed, the local economy took a severe hit. Poverty and unemployment rates climbed, with some reports claiming as much as 60% of its roughly 200,000 residents living in poverty. At the same time, crime remained high. Local leaders have worked to boost the tech sector, but the benefits haven't been evenly felt. Some neighborhoods are still full of abandoned houses and shuttered stores. One of the most infamous landmarks is the Terrence Building, a former psychiatric hospital cloaked in mystery and history. If Rochester is the classic story of a fallen industrial city, Troy's decline is even more complex. Once a major center for steel and textiles, and proudly claiming to be the historic home of Uncle Sam, the city couldn't withstand deindustrialization, which eroded its economic base. Today, Troy's population of over 50,000 struggles with poverty, crime, and deteriorating housing. For example, the city's overall crime rate is 51.05, well above the national average of 30.37. Like many other cities, revitalization efforts are underway, with new developments in certain areas. But outside the downtown core, conditions are far from ideal. Many residents feel caught between low property prices and a quality of life that's just as low. From Troy, we move to a city every American knows. It might sound like an exaggeration, but what comes to mind when you hear Niagara Falls? Most likely, the spectacular waterfalls that draw millions of tourists each year. But the city of Niagara Falls itself isn't as beautiful as its famous attraction. Many residential areas have fallen into decline, with poverty rates running high. Jobs outside the tourism sector are extremely limited. Ironically, despite the steady flow of visitors, the economic benefits aren't enough to lift the lives of local residents. The city also faces serious environmental challenges, such as the infamous Love Canal disaster, a site of severe chemical contamination. Yes, Niagara Falls has a history of industrial pollution, and it still struggles with that legacy. On top of that, many buildings are in disrepair, boarded up, or abandoned, adding to the impression of urban decay. The next city might have an even harsher story. With a population of over 60,000, Utica is known as a diverse immigrant city. Yet, like many other towns in the region, it suffered a steep economic decline after the fall of the textile industry in the mid-20th century. Utica seems to have lost its sense of identity. Around 27.6% of residents live below the poverty line, while job opportunities are scarce. Homelessness is a common sight in some parts of town, often linked to substance abuse. And while the cost of living is low, the quality of public services and safety remains a serious concern. In this city, The challenges aren't just economic, they're also deeply rooted in social issues. Syracuse is considered a major hub in central New York, well known for its role in the economy and education. It's home to Syracuse University, a major research institution, and hosts the Great New York State Fair every year. But life off campus is a far cry from the images in student brochures. Crime rates are high in certain neighborhoods, and downtown struggles with empty storefronts while much of its public infrastructure needs renewal. Some areas, like the Pioneer Homes neighborhood, lack access to grocery stores, creating food insecurity and health problems. Harsh winters also pose regular difficulties, adding to living costs and everyday strain. Next is Elmira, often described as a small city with big problems, from declining infrastructure and housing issues to crime and poverty. It sounds complex enough when laid out in detail. Interestingly, a 1985 article in the New York Times noted that Elmira's decline was tied to the reopening of a factory. That analysis still feels relevant today, as the fall of local industry has left many commercial buildings and homes abandoned. While the surrounding area offers natural beauty, the city struggles to attract new investors. But if Elmira's struggles sound bad when put gently, wait until you hear about the next city. Jamestown has long carried a reputation as one of the worst cities in New York. There are plenty of reasons for that: high crime rates, drug use and addiction, violence, and homelessness among them. Once a major hub for furniture manufacturing, this city of over 27,000 now has areas, even downtown, where entire streets feel empty, with many shops closed for good. Reviews from residents often cite overpriced housing and a lack of available jobs. That said, Jamestown is still home to attractions like the National Comedy Center and the Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz Museum, along with appealing outdoor recreation opportunities. From Jamestown, we move to a city once built on innovation, Schenectady. Known for decades as a hub of progress thanks to General Electric, the city now faces much tougher times. The technological edge that once defined it has largely faded into memory. With a population of over 68,000, Schenectady struggles with sharp social inequality across race, income, and property ownership. Some neighborhoods are thriving, but many others have fallen far behind. Over the years, the city's recovery has been slow. Old buildings and poorly maintained streets are a common sight. Yes, the city that once pulsed with innovation now feels tired, dimmed, and far from its former glory. In the scenic Hudson Valley lies the city of Poughkeepsie. Interestingly, it sits right between New York City and Albany, an ideal location to grow and thrive. Unfortunately, that advantage hasn't done much for its residents. Crime rates here remain relatively high, while well-paying jobs are hard to come by. The downtown area still has rows of historic buildings, but many have grown worn and quiet. Public transportation exists, but it's not efficient enough to make commuting to nearby big cities easy. Many young people choose to leave after graduation, leaving behind an aging population. Even so, cultural events and weekly markets remain bright spots for those who stay. Next, we move to a major city with a long, struggling reputation. Buffalo is a classic example of an industrial city that lost its footing. Once, its port and trade routes along Lake Erie fueled rapid growth. But the collapse of the steel industry and the rerouting of shipping channels hit the local economy hard. Today, the contrast between neighborhoods that receive new investment and those left behind is stark. The east side of Buffalo has become a symbol of urban poverty, with abandoned homes and high unemployment. Harsh winters bring months of heavy snow, driving up the cost of living, especially for heating. While the city government is actively developing entertainment districts and courting tech investors, many residents feel these changes benefit only a small portion of the population. And finally, we arrive at the last city on the list, whose story is no less troubling. Watertown sits in northern New York, near the Canadian border, with long, often harsh winters. Its economy relies heavily on Fort Drum, a major military base. That means when military activity slows or budgets are cut, local businesses take a hit. Outside of peak hours, downtown can feel empty, with many mid-sized shops struggling to survive. Problems like flooding, which damages public facilities, are sometimes slow to be addressed. Even so, Watertown has a tight-knit community where neighbors know each other and lend a hand. These are the 15 cities in New York that, while rich in history and potential, now face significant challenges. Many of their stories are similar: industrial decline, limited job opportunities, crime, and aging infrastructure. But behind it all are people who remain, building community and hoping for better days ahead. In the end, change doesn't come quickly, but with the right attention, investment, and policies, these cities still have a chance to recover. The question is, if you lived in one of them, what would you do to make it better?